Call to order the Board of Zoning Appeals for February the 22nd, 2011. With the quorum been set, I'd like to you to review the minutes from last month's meeting, if you would, please. I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as submitted. Do I have a second?
Second.
Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, minutes carry. Okay, moving on to other business, we'll have a motion to nominate and elect a chairman for a one-year term. Do I have any name suggestions for a chairman for a one-year term?
I'll be glad to serve.
Okay. We have a motion to serve as a one-year term. Any other suggestions?
I'll second.
I'll second
So
that.
we have a second. All right, those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, let me move on. We'll take care of the vice chair and then we'll swap things around. Motion to nominate and elect a vice chair for a one-year term. Do I have a recommendation for a motion?
Mr. Stanfield.
Okay. Motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. With that, we'll move the gavel on to you, sir. You want to take the rest of it and I'll help you through it.
Okay. The next on the agenda is in the old business. Item 3, the front setback variances, front yard variance, side yard variances, rear yard variances, landscaping variance, dustless pavement variance, self-storage warehouse. The setback variance for proposed self-storage warehouse facility to be located at 287 Sand Hill Road, property owned by G and CB Enterprises, LLC.
Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item, and actually I probably want to start out with just saying, in general, we've had more issues with some of the submittals this month than I think I've had since I've been here. So there's this one is something that had been submitted in 2009 to the Board of Zoning Appeals, and the variances were all denied. The applicant didn't show up at that time, and I'd actually spoken with the applicant this morning about this application to request a deferral, and he said he was going to submit a letter by the end of the day to us just requesting the deferral. He has not submitted that letter as of yet, and we've that's normal procedure typically, and I think Graham would attest to that we do normally require the written deferral or someone to be present at the meeting to defer items. So we do have several of these items on the agenda, and just kind of explain, or on the several requests for this, for variances on this, and to kind of explain that, if you look at we have 3 copies of the plat remaining they submitted on their original submittal. They've not made a resubmittal on this, and have 3 copies remaining, including, we do have one here at the desk. They did request front setback variances for some of their existing development there with the mini storages on Sand Hill Road. And with this, they were platting the 2 parcels together, or I'm sorry, splitting the 2 parcels apart. And in doing so, they had several variance requests for a lot of their existing development there. And kind of show you the aerial here of the property. Let's see, I might have to go forward with this. Okay. Don't have the aerial on the presentation. We do have a copy here that I can hand out. Kind of explains it better, and you also have the final plat and the site plan. Kind of details you see on the property where the variances are being requested. The mini storages are located very close to the Sand Hill Road, and in getting the plat and site plan approved by the Planning Commission, they'd have to get the variances approved prior to getting those approved, and we have not requested deferral, and they still have several items remaining on the Planning Commission agenda that they have to get addressed, and that's we had run into issues before at the last supposed submittal.
Mr. Green, just a quick question on the application. The handwritten note on page 2 shows 8 variances, but on our old business only showing 6. Just want to qualify, we are looking at the 6 items or the 8 items?
Okay.
This is dated December the 27th.
I think the workshop report kind of details out more of the variance requests. Let's see. Okay. On number 8 and number 1, that's they're both front setback variance requests, but one is for the existing development, and then number 8 is for lot 1A.
Okay.
So that's the difference in one. And
So is number 7, the variance 220 setback self-storage, is that part of the application? Because we only have 6 on the agenda.
There's 7 on the agenda.
So front setback, front yard, side yard, rear yard, landscaping, and dustless.
And the self-storage warehouse.
Warehouse setback variance.
Just let the rest of the board know, we've had this application several times before, that they've not come before us and asked any questions, that they weren't here to represent themselves, and the previous board had issues with so many variances being requested on a lot of this size. So they've not been here, we are required to vote on this, even though they're not here. So I'm going to make a motion to deny the 7 requests as presented.
Second.
Agreed.
Okay, so you, as Chairman, if you could just make just go through.
We have a motion on the floor to decline this application, and we have a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It passes as declined. The next item on the agenda is new business. The minimum setback variance for an accessory building to be located at 150 Heritage Circle, a property owned by Stephen Stowe.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item is a setback variance request for 150 Heritage Circle. This is a lot that's in Heritage Valley, and what they are requesting, there's a 10-foot requirement for accessory structures to be located from the property line. And what the applicant has shown on the drawing that they presented here is just this area right here as being the area of the variance request. We did review this a little more, checked it with the aerial and plat actually. It looks like a rectangular lot with the drawing that's been submitted, but it's actually this lot number 2. And as you can see, there's a public utility and drainage easement here in the back. It's 10 foot, and the lot line actually slants here. And you can see it a little better with the aerial photo, which they have a fence that goes all the way out here. And then the accessory structure, there's an existing accessory structure out there that does not meet that requirement. And then they're wanting to add the one on the drawing right in here to kind of go parallel along where the existing structure is.
Both that yard is fenced in, and the one next door to it is also fenced in, and I believe there's a walkway in between the two fences, although it's not a passageway.
Yes, sir.
I also noticed, I was out there today, and the one unit on the corner at 150, 52 maybe, it too has an outside building, and it does offer a 10-foot. Is there anything special about this property that they should have that consideration?
Well, they are very small lots now, and plus it is the property line here is slanted. I think one thing to kind of take in consideration possibly too would be there's several accessory structures that are located right on the property lines in that area.
Right.
And even actually here, the property line is right here, and the neighbor has an accessory structure that's outside the property line. So it is kind of for that area. It would kind of conform with the adjacent area. Not that it's right, but
Mr. Green, what zoning is the property presently?
R3.
R3.
Here's some here's some photos we've taken here. There's the walkway Mr. Carter was talking about, and here's the rear of the property. This is the neighbor's outbuilding accessory structure here. This is their fence that you saw in the aerial, and their existing accessory structure, which is, as you can see, is right there close to the fence. And there's the two trees. And this is actually the adjacent property, and then to the rear is, I believe it's HOA property. They use it as Heritage Valley Park. And, I think the city kind of works with them to lease that property.
Any other members have any questions?
So going back to the building, so it will be in the easement?
Yes, sir. And possibly encroaching on the property line in the corner.
If you look, gentlemen, on our rules and regulations, R3, it's identified in our packet, custom accessory buildings, including private garage and non-commercial works, provided they are located in the rear, not closer than 10 feet. So,
Can you go back to the aerial, please?
Yes, sir.
What's his max coverage for all buildings on that lot?
I believe it's 40% for R3. It may actually be, let me check that really quick. I think it varies with each residential district, so I want to be sure. Yes, it's 40%.
The fence is not on his property line, correct?
Yeah, his fence actually goes outside of his property here in the
On
corner.
the other side.
Yeah, yes, sir. And where he's asking to put the accessory structure is right here in this area.
What I'm getting at is on his drawing here, if you go by his scale, he's roughly 8 foot off his property line with what he's proposed.
Yes, sir. And given the way the property line actually lies, it looks like, given the drawing, it looks like it would actually maybe encroach even right here in this area right here. So the variance should actually be to 0 feet from the property line.
because the other issue that I have is this is a hand drawing and it's not signed by an engineer, so we're just going on what is applied.
Yes.
It would be right on the property line.
Yeah.
And I'm not for sure, the applicant may be here tonight. I didn't see the applicant, but they may be here.
Just see the applicants here to ask any questions.
Is the applicant for this motion present this evening? Obviously not.
Why don't you ask if anyone else wants to speak on this matter?
Is there anybody else would like to speak on this matter, either from that property or neighbors? Okay, obviously not.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to deny as submitted.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Unanimous. The final order of business, new business here, is side and rear yard variances for an existing mini storage facility located at 475 Old Nashville Highway, property owned by Stan Glasgow.
Okay, this one is a submittal that's was deferred from last month, and what they had shown on the, actually this is a new submittal for this month because it was on the Planning Commission last month, deferred for Boza's submittal, and then they've submitted for Boza and have two variance requests for rear yard and then a side yard setback. And there's the drawing that was submitted kind of details that in depth. However, we reviewed this and checking the aerial. There's some issues that probably need to be looked at, and specifically, I think if you look at the Bca Variance Request here, there's a 20-foot rear yard here, and then they're showing these as side yards here. And this right here, they're showing that as a side yard, which I actually classify that as also a rear yard because it's in the, there should be two rears, two sides, and then a side along here, and then a front. They're showing a front or a side yard setback rather than a rear. And with the 20, there's two issues with that mainly. One being, even with this, if you go to the aerial, there's parking in this corner here that goes all the way to the property line, and that would have to be, that would need to be a another variance request for this area here, and they haven't applied for that or given the drawing. They don't have that on there. And plus, with the 20-foot rear yard, this building actually encroaches on that rear yard, so that would need to be included in the request for variances, just to be considered. I mean, well, not to be considered, but for that to be item to be addressed. And I think what has actually been shown here is a variance request for the east yard, which you can see here, and you can kind of see where the pavement goes back and forth between the, in some areas 20-foot rear yard is provided. In some areas it goes down all the way to the property line. So like in this area here, and
It's over.
it encroaches in different places. So they're asking for that to be reduced down to 0 feet in some places. And it's a lot of items that are a little difficult to explain here, but that's one of the variance requests, and the other is a side yard here where that should be 10 feet of green space, and there's pavement all the way up the property line in places there. So it also varies though.
Mr. Green, I've been on the planning commission when this was put together. My question was, does the original plat as submitted to the planning commission, which was approved, are those buildings in the correct position?
There are actually no setbacks shown on the site plan that was approved in 2005. We had requested to the applicant today, or the engineer today, that maybe defer this and revise the application to just make sure that everything is addressed. So, because basically if the number 1 and number 3 are taken care of, that we still have this north rear yard, that's an issue. And if something is decided today, then another application to Boza would have to be submitted and another $100 fee. It would just need to be all addressed in one application and be easier.
As applicants here, I'd like to hear from an applicant or a representative, and if you would, Bruce, take care of the requirements.
Thank you. My name is Enoch Jarrell with Huddleston Steel Engineering.
Can you raise your right hand?
Oh, sure.
Do you swear or promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Okay. Enoch E. Jarrell Jr., Huddleston Steel Engineering, 2115 Northwest Broad Street, Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
Thank you.
Also have Mr. Stan Glasgow that owns the property. Mr. Glasgow's owned this property for close to 20 years. And like I say, what he's wanting to do is he owns all of these lots. He owns these 2 houses here as well. Stan lives here. And he wants to build a building here for a meeting facility. I met with staff back in December, and because of that is a separate zone lot, and with the front yard, and there's a 35-foot buffer, it left really virtually no building envelope to build his building and get parking. So we decided that maybe the best way is to include that separate lot he owns with the rest of the storage facility and submit it all in one application. We did that, went to the last planning commission meeting, and the issues came up of bringing the existing yards into compliance. Because I think when this building was built in the 90s, Stan built that a long time ago. All the remainder buildings were built in 2005. And so we, went out and located the pavement edges, and this is a 100-foot wide overhead TVA line. Is a big tower right here, and so there are some spots where, and Grant mentioned the yard requirements. When this site plan was submitted in 2005, the setbacks weren't shown graphically, but this is Old National Highway was the front. This was considered the rear yard. This is side, and this is side. And those buildings are constructed, we staked them out, they're constructed exactly like was approved in 2005, because that's what was the determination of the yards at the time. One thing Grant's telling me now is that this is a rear yard. We looked at it as in 2005 and today, front, rear, side and side. I mean, I don't know how you have 2 rears. It's an odd shaped lot. So that may be one item we need to clarify maybe is, can we have 2 rears, or is that a side or rear? When this building was built in 1985, it's 15 foot from the side lot line, and that was considered a side yard, and it was, the permit was granted by the city to build that building was as a side yard. But, I mean, it's different staff and different termination. The rules have changed maybe since 95, but I guess the first thing is this a rear or side yard? The north line, it's always been shown on site plans. It's never been graphically shown, but it was always discussed as being a side. And I guess that's a staff determination, and that may be one thing that the Board of Zoning Appeals could discuss is that a rear or side? I think that's the first thing we got to determine before we figure out the variance.
It would be a staff determination, but it's also a portion of the planning commission with the plat. I mean, we've got a plat submitted to the planning commission for approval, and if the planning commission board, disagreed with staff saying that was a side yard, then that could be labeled as a side yard. But at this point right now, the Board of Zoning Appeals does not have that plat approved to be able to make that decision of whether that, so I guess it's your opinion at this point of whether that's a side or a rear yard, unless you want to go with staff determination, which, like Grant was saying, you're going to have to defer, because based on what the request states is the yard variance on existing mini storage as shown on the attached drawing, and as shown on the attached drawing was not showing that that's, you know, that that's an encroaching in the rear yard. So that's the issue we have here.
Also, I'd like to show you guys this is the site plan from 2005, and there's no setback or yards actually shown on that, what we have on file here.
And that's one thing that we're trying to not really fix. I ain't saying that was a problem. It's just like Enoch had already stated, that was different staff, different maybe rules, different requirements, not real sure. But it was approved. That's the way it got built. And what we're saying today is if you're going to get the plat approved or the site plan approved, you need to bring what's existing into compliance, which is needing, you know, the variances. So that's kind of where we stand.
We're just requesting everything be shown the right way and like it actually lays out on the site, and I think that's pretty fair to ask.
And we absolutely want to follow the rules, do it the right way. I mean, bottom line is Stan was trying to build a building on the piece of property he owns. You know, we want to follow the rules, but we're not real sure what the rules are. And I do have a question maybe for Grant or Kyle, if I may. If you determine, Grant, this is a rear line, and something you want to appeal that decision, who would we appeal that to?
Actually, it could be appealed to the Board of Zoning
It
Appeals.
would be this body that would determine if that is a side or a rear.
Yes, sir.
I didn't know till this morning that was really an issue, because for the last 5 years I've worked on this project, we've used it as a side. So I don't know if it's a discussion for tonight, but I think that's, or maybe it is. I mean, bottom line is to build this building here, a 3,200 square foot meeting room facility, you know, we've got to have a determination on that line, and then some variances for the side and rear yard.
And to give the board a little bit of information, if you're going to consider, like he's considering this as your rear, and then this is your side, how did he come to that conclusion? How come that's not the rear, and how come this is not a side? Because as you can tell, these buildings are not oriented in a position that you can say this is the front and this is the back. And if he was to say that this office, this is the front, well then this back corner technically is the back. So that's why we're saying these both should be classified as rear. I mean, that's our interpretation of it.
It's an odd shaped lot. I mean, this building, the front is right here, facing this direction. That's the rear. That's the side. There's no doors, I don't think, Stan, on that property line to the north. Is there any doors out to the north of that building? So when it was constructed, the front door is right here where that vehicle's parked. So when it was constructed, that was the side. The north line was the side.
But you have numerous buildings on the same lot.
sure.
You got to consider all buildings.
We had the applicant, I mean, can we have the applicants come up?
Sure.
Be sworn in, because I'd like to get his opinion too. I mean, he was part of it when we first started this. Raise your right hand if you would, please.
You swear or promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name and address for the
Stan
record.
Glasgow, 467 Old Nashville Highway, Laverne, Tennessee. That, what I was saying here, Grant, that was a different lot. It was a residential lot at that time that building was built. I don't know what the solution is. If we're talking about something here, do I tear the building down to be in compliance? Or is it grandfathered in the way that it is right now? I don't know. I mean, if the solution that they're saying is that doesn't comply and it has to be torn down, then that ain't gonna happen. I mean, I don't have to build this meeting center that I'm trying to build. I can go up in Bedford County and build me a house on my farm up there, you know, take my money. But that is just, what is the solution? You know, if we're presenting it that it's a problem, I don't want to have a problem, but there's got to be a solution. The problem, if that solution is that building is non-compliant with the way it is, and it's grandfathered in, it's there, and, you know, I'll just go do something else, is what I'm saying. I'd like to build this building, you know, because I think it'd be great, not only for me, but it'd be good for the city also.
Staff's already posed a solution. Earlier, I've stated the solution. You need to revise the application and then this board can grant the variance if they feel necessary. That is the solution. If y'all don't grant the variance, yes, you would have to tear the building down to come into compliance. That's the solution.
Only if I build something.
Right.
Right, if you build something.
Right,
But
so I
the
don't have to
solution
build
is to,
anything.
as
Okay.
previously discussed this morning with your engineer, the solution is to revise this application, let the Board of Zoning Appeals do their job and decide on whether or not the variance is necessary or adequate. And if it does, then we can continue on with
Well,
the
let me
final
ask you-
plat and the site plan
Let me ask
approval.
you a question. Why was this brought up to him just today? I cut my vacation a week short in Florida so I could be here today, tonight. He gets notice today that y'all have got a problem with this today. Now, I've already left down there, of course, I'm here. So I don't understand, if we had a problem then, why didn't it brought up back then instead of just today?
Well, today's the meeting day, and today is the day that we would tell tell the boards what we have issues with. We've had workshop reports, and this has been on here for 2 months. Okay, we had the very first submittal, we had a workshop report, we had comments addressed, some comments not. We did another report, you've had another workshop, he's made another submittal. Now, we got that submittal last week, we've reviewed it, we have other jobs to do besides just look at one submittal. And basically, as of this morning, we was able to contact him and let him know what you needed to do. I can't help that, your personal schedule with what you had to do. Apologize for whatever it messed on your
So it
personal
costs
plans.
me another month, though, is what you're saying, and I have to defer this and then, wait another month to bring that back up? I can't do it tonight?
Not with the items that aren't addressed. I mean, actually, if they want to be heard, I mean, they can be heard, but, it would just, you already have another issue that would require a variance that hadn't been applied for, and it would still cost you another month.
Other than this?
Yes, sir.
Another one, that he hadn't done?
Unless the Board of Zoning Appeals tonight wants to vote on this variance. And if they vote on this, once you get to final plat stage, which is gonna be the planning commission, the next meeting, if they say that's a rear, then you're gonna have to make another submittal next month. So either way, you're gonna be pushed back a month. Now, so you can either decide now to defer this and make another application, or you can let them vote on this. And if they vote on it, you may still, at planning commission stage, get denied, or you may have to make another submittal to both.
But if the planning commission decides it is a side yard instead of a rear yard,
Then you'll be
I'm
okay.
okay.
Well,
You'd be
that's not entirely true, because there's still this area here that encroaches on the what I'll call the rear yard, because it goes all the way up to the property line. So, I mean, it still wouldn't meet all the requirements that are in the zoning ordinance.
You've not shown everything on the drawing. Basically, what's on the application, you've not shown everything on the drawing you need a variance for.
That area there is gravel.
And that's not a yard. Gravel's not grass.
Okay, and this is under that power line, I mean, it was gravel was put there, I guess in the 90s, Stan, I'm not sure, but before we showed the drawing was the pavement, and there is a spot of gravel in that corner. You may have a picture of it, I don't know.
Well,
Right in that corner right there is gravel that's, Stan owns this house, lives here, so I mean, I don't know how they got there or why, but there is a spot of gravel under the TVA line back in that corner.
The spot of gravel got there is a temporary construction easement, or not easement, but a temporary construction exit during the construction of the mini warehouse buildings at one point in time. I do know that was used as an access road at one point, so I'm sure that's where the gravel was left over from.
Mr. Gallagher, let me just jump in here. I was on the board in 2005, and I'm listening to both sides here tonight. I understand your frustrations of coming back from Florida, but I would still encourage this board. I see the issues, and I think we need to adhere to our rules and regs, and I would encourage you tonight to defer it, get this squared away with staff, come back next month. You can do BOZA and Planning Commission on the same evening and get this wrapped up, providing both boards approve it. At the present time, we have an issue, and I side with staff that there are professionals that we would like to listen to. I understand your concerns, and remember this plat when it was done, but I would encourage you just to defer, get things tidied up with your engineer, and get squared away with the staff. Then we can proceed correctly next month.
Do both of them next month?
Yep.
When is the planning commission supposed to meet on this?
I mean, tonight, right after this meeting, this is the planning commission meeting on the site plan.
But if you address both issues in the next 2 weeks with staff, and you come back to this BOSA board next month, you'll get a vote one way or the other, and then the planning commission immediately behind it. And then with the variances, if they're granted, then you can move ahead with the planning commission, and you'll be squared away. I know it's frustrating for you for another month, but I would recommend you do that.
That was a lot of hassle. You know, I'm gonna be 72 years old come April. And I think what I'm gonna do, Graham, is just withdraw this all together.
Okay.
And, I'll go up in Bedford County and build me a house on my farm.
That decision is
I would
yours.
like to have built this, you know, because I think it'd be great. It'd be a great thing to have, but I don't have to, so I think that's what I'll do. I appreciate it, and you know, that's everybody. You know, I understand you guys got a job to do, and I'm not knocking that. It's just, you know, sometimes I pray about a situation. I think God put a stop on it, and I think that's what I'm gonna abide by. And I think that's it. If we have to jump through this many hoops to get something done, something just ain't right somewhere. Should have been put together and should have been brought up back then and not today. That's what I'm saying. So I'll just withdraw it all together. And then, you know, maybe later on in another time, another place, then I'll come back and we'll redo the whole thing.
Okay, well, that's your decision, but I would just encourage you to speak to your engineer to make a couple of minor changes and be ready to go.
I made my decision.
Understand?
It just didn't make it.
Okay, all right. So
Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That happens deferred. Close it out?
So that close out, it's withdrawn.
Yeah, it's withdrawn. So just close that meeting.
If you wouldn't mind to stay, just for the.
Just want to say, just handle any other meeting. Suggestions?
Is there anything else that should be brought before the Board of Zoning Appeals at this time? If not, we stand adjourned.
Thank you.